this day. And on this day, I want us to remember a few things. But before we get into that, my name is Olive Monica Najuma, and I am joined by the fantastic two. That is Chirabo Robert Nyonyintono, and of course Chantal Olive Akandinda. Now, speaking about today, this morning when I was coming to work, I was thinking about the old times, and I'm like, a lot happened when we were younger, right? We've all gone to school, we've gone to high school, and there are things that happened in high school that were coming back to my mind this morning. And it being Flashback Thursday, I would like to start with Chantal. Yes. Tell us about your high school. Good morning.
Good morning, Olive. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm doing very well. It's a Thursday. We're closing into the weekend. It's
Yes.
always good news when you're closing into the weekend. Always good news. My Thursdays, or when I think about my high school, there is so much to tell. I can assure you. I don't know where you would want me to start from, but
What is that outstanding thing that you remember from high school?
I was the tallest girl in school. Yes.
Really, you
That
had
one,
to do us like that this morning?
can't help
You just
it.
confirmed to everyone that you're taller than me, and Chirabo
help
has
it.
issues with that.
I can't help it.
Chirabo, good morning.
No, I don't know. I don't know why, for some reason, Russia has chosen to attack Ukraine this morning.
This morning.
I can assure you, it's
For
not,
some reason.
it's not personal, it's only business.
I don't know why. Russia has chosen again to.
Go into Ukraine.
But you know the thing we
Early
ladies go
morning.
by? We want violence, we don't want peace.
Let me first greet our viewers because they have not begun with issues of height. A lovely morning to you, and thank you so much for waking up with us this lovely Thursday morning. At least it didn't rain, though we are in the rainy season. Now, for me, one thing that I remember so much during school, though yesterday, but now it was very unfortunate because we lost one student and over 100 are injured. About 30 are in a very critical condition. That is in Manafa district, where these children were on a lorry and they were coming from a music competition. Then they had an accident. So one died on spot. There were over 100 and 30. We continue to pray for them. Now, this brought me back to the memories of high school. I wasn't a footballer, but I was a cheerleader. Someone you couldn't want to leave because I would disorganize the entire pitch. You know, short people usually. Short, small, tiny.
Robert.
But I was gifted in terms of supporting. I would go to the goal post of the other area and cause havoc. And when you concentrate on me, goals enter, then I take off before they work on me. So they would never leave me. If there was anything competition and you wanted someone to cheer, make noise, cause that havoc, and of course, definitely, you know, when you're short, you have an advantage that when you hide, you're not easily located.
Oh my
Yes.
God.
So I would be very
People
sure.
would disappear in the
Yeah,
crowd.
but I was also blessed with splinting. In the case I took off, you would see something that you.
Now,
So
speaking
I
of
remember those trips where we didn't have vans, school vans,
Yes.
but you had lorries. They would
Yeah, the
fetch.
trucks.
They would fetch firewood. They
Still
would
carry
normally
you
they
to
would
the
bring
destination.
benches and or desks. But still, if you're moving, you would climb on the lorry.
And it
Then you
takes
go
you.
singing, chanting, all that. It was so lovely.
It was. It was. Actually, speaking about children being moved on lorries, you have reminded me of something. At the time I was in primary school, but I remember there was another grisly accident when students from Chinoni were on a lorry. They were from a sports event, it overturned and some of them died. And I remember the time it was very scary, and the government even issued a directive that school children should not be transported on lorries. They should be transported in vans and buses.
And it still
So-
stands. That directive still
It
stands.
still stands. So this school that did that, it is really sad, and I hope, by the way, the driver is on the run. Yeah, he decided. And I wonder, when accidents happen, for some reason, the person in charge of driving always survives.
Yes, I used to, growing up, I used to hear my dad say it's very hard for the driver to die because they have what to hold on to. The most that happens to them is their chest usually gets affected and maybe their face. But the other people who are not concerned with how the road is moving and how things are happening, they're not even aware. Sometimes these people see the accidents almost happening, so they get what to like hold on to.
That's
unlike
true.
you who is in the passenger seat being driven.
And yeah, being in the driver's seat, is seeing something from the side mirror.
You do.
You remember the accident that happened a couple of years ago at around Chira Road Police. The truck came
From
cruising
Bukoto,
down,
yes.
and I remember in that video you could see that the driver of the taxi saw the truck coming and he exited himself in record time.
Right.
He was able to save himself, and of course some
Because they have
people
to be
died.
alert on the road, so they will
And
literally
usually
see some of these things.
they see the
coming their way.
accident,
Yes.
their mind speaks to them of how best to avert it. And
So they
I've seen
act
some
fast.
accidents, not really seen, but when police is interrogating the drivers, the few that they're able to get, he'll tell you that, well, I had to drive away from my side to avoid the hitting to come closer to me, and the passenger got it better. You just look at the accident that claimed a former businessman upon you.
Right.
The driver didn't even have a
scratch.
And you
Rarely
wonder,
do
but this one
drivers-
lost
rarely do
life. So
drivers-
you would see that maybe somehow he tries to save himself in whatever position, leaving the rest there, because he has seen it happen. His mind is prepared and maybe body. And sometimes what kills people is shock. You know, shock.
And at that moment, you're
quick
trying
bang,
to save
yet this
yourself.
one psychologically, body-wise, he has prepared himself.
Ah, that's true. But now for me, flashing back to high school, I normally tell people I used to be a very shy person. And they don't believe me. One time I told Chantal, by the way, I used to be very shy. She's like, you, shy? Come on.
No.
But I used to be this very shy student, especially in primary and some part of the beginning of high school. Oh my goodness, I was bullied. I hate bullying because every time I remember some of the events in my school time, I'm like, no.
We should have been in the same school because in the family, I'm the family bully, so you
Oh
can imagine
God,
what I would
no.
have done to
No,
you.
how do I even know you? Why do I know you? But anyway, a lot happened in the last 24 hours in our country. And of course, the most outstanding for me, at least, was that the World Bank yesterday decided to pull funding from Uganda because of the law we passed a couple of months ago, that is the anti-homosexuality bill. But then the president responded when the World Bank said that. He said we can survive without the loans from the World Bank, and he said that our industries are growing. We will be having our first oil in 2025. He said we have agriculture, and he also said that there are many ways we can depend on ourselves and be able to survive. I'm curious, what do you think the country is going to, are we going to suffer without this funding, or like the president said, we will be able to stand on our own 2 feet?
One thing, as the head of a family, now for Uganda, His Excellency, the head of the family, you never show the people beneath you that hope is lost.
Yes.
Because if you show them that you've lost hope, then where will they run to?
Chogamba tugumi.
But the reality is, and the fact is, yes, our industries have improved, Uganda's economy has improved, but the World Bank has been a major funder. And there are projects, for example, the infrastructure project. I don't know how many roads we are working on with loans from the World Bank.
Right.
And government is not funding any. Now, should the World Bank also look at those projects and say they're exclusive in one way and stop their funding? Look at our health sector.
Yes.
There is so much. Look at the education. We have so many classrooms, so many programs under the World Bank. And there are those projects that may continue because government co-funds, but there are those that are entirely World
Dependent
Bank
on
funded.
the World Bank.
This is going to cause unemployment. We must be realistic. We are going to feel the pinch. So for me, I don't believe so much in saying we are now an island, we are independent. The only good news here, for me, what I would look at is, over time, we no longer only depend on the World Bank
Yes.
for loans. We have the Africa Development Bank, we have the Exim Bank, we have our brothers. We've extended our tenterhooks and antennas to have other alternative sources of borrowing from.
Yes.
But saying that we can sustain without these, so for me, I think we should concentrate more on how best to extend our tentacles to other lending bodies, international bodies. But there are so many projects here in Uganda that are World Bank.
Well,
there are so many people employed under the world on these projects.
Well, the president said that like he said that our oil is coming, and he said that if now we focus on patriotism and of course discipline and also do our best to avert corruption, we will be able to stand on our own 2 feet. At least that's what he believes will be done.
And still have dialogue with the World Bank.
Yeah, he said they're still having conversations with the World Bank, and he even said that the law that has led to this decision is not entirely against homosexuals. He said what we are mainly targeting are people who are trying to recruit and coerce others into what the president referred to as their deviance. But he said, those are the people we are targeting. If you're just living as a homosexual, we are not about you. And this is the reason why he actually, before consenting to the bill to become a law, that's why he said he first sent the bill back to Parliament and said you need to make a few changes here and there. Yeah.
Well, when you look at the letter to the Bazukulu that the president sent, to him, we are not doing badly because we've seen our inflation also go down to 3.9%. Yet we were actually in double figures at a point. We were headed to the double figures. So at some point you would want to agree that we can handle these things. However, we can't deny the fact that this is going to shake us economically. It will shake us. But isn't it time we considered being independent and reducing on how much we are borrowing? The last I checked, according to the International Monetary Fund, we had exceeded the borrowing limit as a country. So why should we even be having considerations of borrowing more money unless if it's just the grants that are coming in? But
well, Muganda agamba akugoba yakuwe kubo, so maybe ngawe batugobye tugenda fune kubo, and we will be able to figure out how to maneuver and go forward as a country. Chantal, there is something you were talking to me about, a father.
Yes. So I took interest in this story because I don't know how someone who takes a father figure can get the feeling to actually rape their own daughter. Yes, it's your stepdaughter, but this gentleman raped his stepdaughter. Now, that as if that wasn't enough, he went to court and he was sentenced to 26 years and 6 months. This man had the audacity to appeal that this sentence was actually harsh and unfair. He needed it to be reduced.
Oh.
Yes, he appealed. And the judges that were on the case were like, no. According to how this case was handled, this was the best punishment you could get. But my question is, how do you have the audacity to actually go to court and appeal?
Where you violated a child that was in your care.
You're a father, you are a steward.
I think there is a problem in this country. There's a lot of moral decadence, but also when the family, which is the smallest yet most important unit of society, is disorganized,
of the country actually.
Yeah, it's disorganized. These are likely to happen. Many people, and we may have to change some words. You know, not everyone is a father.
And I say that a lot.
Yes.
As in, you can't.
Not everyone is a dad. Everyone is a father, but not a dad.
Yes.
And people should know that sometimes they say, my father, you must understand that we are living in a society where we need to have a serious discussion. Unfortunately, we are not having it. A serious discussion about family. The more families are being destroyed. Now, when we move to fight homosexuality, people are coming up and putting all sorts of defenses. But once that unit is destroyed, believe you me, such happen. Such will happen. A person grown up in a broken family, it's by God's grace that they will have a stable family. That
is very true, because all they've known is brokenness. And now imagine what is happening to that child. You see why I'm concentrating on the fact that this person is a father. As a father, by nature's rule, you hold a certain set of expectations in someone's heart, in a child's heart. If I look at you as a father figure, I have certain expectations. I view you a certain way. When you disappoint me, even if by just one small thing, you have killed my youth. You have killed me mentally and emotionally. Imagine what that girl is going through. Will she ever trust another man? It's going to take a lot of work. So you find this girl in her late 20s, she even fears men. I'm giving an example. She even fears men. You realize that she's going to go around with certain vices. She might adopt a certain lifestyle, all because one individual who should have been responsible enough to control himself could not, and they messed up this girl's life, and she's messing others up.
She will never trust men, obviously, because the first person to violate and abuse her trust was the one person that was supposed to protect her.
Yes.
And if protection is taken away by the person that we trust, then everything is ruined. Research shows that most young girls are violated or molested or raped by people that they know, people that they trust, and most times most of these people are within the homestead. So we need to really safeguard our children, which is really sad, because now you're going to look at your partner and be safeguarding your child, your daughter, against their father.
The person you say you love, actually.
Exactly, the person that is supposed to help you raise this child together. But anyway, we have been able to gather some stories for you this morning, and we will be taking a look at that, starting with the local stories.
Well, we'll begin with His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Uganda, meeting the Kyabazinga of Busoga. Now, the President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni hosted the Kyabazinga of Busoga, His Majesty William Wilberforce Gabula Nadiope, at State House Entebbe. The President and his guests discussed matters centering on development and socio-economic transformation of Busoga. President Museveni appreciated the Kyabazinga for supporting government's economic empowerment efforts aimed at uplifting the lives of people in Busoga and mobilizing his subjects for development. The Kyabazinga, on the other hand, thanked the President for granting him audience.
And now moving on, Uganda Marine Police Force has recovered 2 guns that dropped in Lake Victoria recently as police searched for bodies of persons that drowned in the lake recently. The 2 AK-47 guns fished by police divers are still in good firing condition. 4 marine officers over the weekend survived narrowly after the boat they were using to comb Lake Victoria waters in search of the recent boat accident victims capsized. In efforts to fight for their lives, the officers let go their weapons and some of the retrieved bodies that prompted water divers to conduct a search to recover the 2 guns and the bodies. An officer with Uganda Marine Police, Obaldo Bamnoba, says the recovered guns are in good condition and 14 bodies were recovered.
Moving on, police in Elgon region confirmed the death of primary 6 people at Nahapuka Primary School in Manafa district. This followed an accident that occurred at Kufu town along Manafa Rakahaka Road. The fatal accident that happened on Tuesday evening left 117 rushed to Mbale Regional Referral Hospital in critical condition. Elgon police spokesperson Tiatika Rogers said a speeding Tata truck carrying pupils from Nakhapura Primary School lost control and overturned several times, killing 1 and injuring 117 pupils on board. The accident occurred at this town where eyewitnesses said they need to put some signs to identify that this is a black spot. Some of the eyewitnesses blamed the accident on reckless driving by the driver, whom they suspect to have been drunk while driving. At the time of the accident, the people are said to have been returning from a music festival at St. Edward Primary School.
Now, members on the Committee of Elders in Forum for Democratic Change have urged former President FDC retired Colonel Dr. Kizza Besigye not to undermine his own legacy as the first president of the party because he, Patrick Amuriat Oboy and Nanda Lamafabi, the Secretary General, are needed in building of the party. While addressing the media at FDC headquarters in Najanankumbi, the chairperson Special Elders Committee, Dr. Frank Nawiso, said whoever thinks they do not have brains to interpret their terms of reference as a committee and did shoddy work should call for other committee.
And we cross over, check onto the international scene. What is happening? And we started with Ecuador. A candidate in Ecuador's forthcoming presidential election has been shot dead at a campaign rally. Now, Fernando, a member of the country's National Assembly, was attacked as he left the event in the morning city of Quito on Wednesday. A member of his campaign team told local media that Mr. Fernando was getting into a car when a man stepped forward and shot him in the head. Current president, that is Guillermo Lasso, vowed the crime will not go unpunished. Witnesses said Mr. Fernando, 59, was shot 3 times. The suspect was also shot in an exchange of bullets with security and later died from his injuries, the country's attorney general said on social media. The first round of the presidential election is scheduled to take place on 20th August. And away from that, a man who posted violent threats against President Joe Biden and other officials online was shot dead during an FBI raid yesterday. Agents were attempting to serve an arrest warrant on Craig Robertson at his home in Utah just hours ahead of a planned visit to the state by Mr. Biden. The criminal complaint said Mr. Robertson posted threats on Facebook against Mr. Biden and a prosecutor pursuing criminal charges against Donald Trump. The FBI declined to give more details. This raid happened at about 6:15 local time in Provo, about 40 miles southwest of Salt Lake City. A criminal complaint outlined messages that Robertson made on Facebook, including pictures of guns and threats to kill Mr. Biden and Alvin Bragg, the Manhattan District Attorney, leading an investigation into a hush money payment by Mr. Trump to an adult film star. And still, the U.S. is concerned about the health and safety of Niger's elected president, Mohamed Bazoum, who has spent more than 2 weeks under house arrest. We are greatly worried about his health and his personal safety and safety of his family, a State Department spokesman said. Earlier, Mr. Bazoum's party said he and his family were being detained under cruel and inhumane conditions. Mr. Bazoum was deposed on 26 July, and since then, a military junta has ruled Niger, while Mr. Bazoum has been kept in the presidential palace. Members of the junta have made no comment about the ousted leader's condition. And speaking matters climate, COP28 President-designate, that is Dr. Sultan Al-Jaber, commends the leadership of President Lula in reducing deforestation in Brazil by 34% in just the last 6 months and targeting zero illegal deforestation by 2030. Dr. Sultan and Brazil's President Lula stand united at a landmark Amazon summit, expressing their commitment to deliver a more equitable climate future and calling on world leaders to bring their energy and ambition to COP28. The presidency continues to build on the back of Dr. Sultan's recently announced COP28 plan to fast-track an orderly and equitable energy transition, fix climate finance, focus on people, lives and livelihoods, and underpin everything with full inclusivity. Brazil assumes the presidency of the G20 during the COP28 and will host COP30, leading to a desire to build a bridge to enable inclusive, resilient and lasting climate progress.
Now we will have a look at some of the headlines in our local dailies.
And we'll begin with the New Vision this morning, where 34,000 schools fail to register. Still, the New Vision brings you more of farm workers, skill boss over delayed payment. Very unfortunate there. Still, funding government to discuss World Bank suspension. And President Museveni caught Saudi Arabia on value addition. Still looking at politics now, Besigye destroying his legacy, says Elder. Okay, it's not yet over there. And Stanbic Bank gives 55 billion capital to SACCOs.
And in today's copy of the Daily Monitor, you will find World Bank locks roads, schools, money. And President Museveni says we can do without loans. Find the full story in today's copy of the Daily Monitor. But also, in case you are someone that is more inclined to relationships, how your attitude can destroy your relationship. And away from that, head teacher in hot soup after one dies in accident. That and so much more in today's copy of the Daily Monitor.
There is a story there, Chantal. Your attitude ruining your relationships. I believe Robert, being a man, would have so much to say about that. You know, like how men say, you go home, she doesn't want to talk, her mouth is swings. The mood swings.
But even the Bible talks about that. I think this is the book of Proverbs, where it's better to stay on a roof than sharing a house with
a nagging wife.
Yes, a nagging wife.
So I'd rather sleep on the rooftop. It's biblical.
Yeah, it is biblical. But of course, when we go off set, we'll talk about the attitude from the men. But for now, we will leave you with the inspiration song of the day. And we will be right back with our newsreel. This is still Good Morning Uganda. Well, it is yet another morning here on Good Morning Uganda. Thank you so much for joining us on this day. And on this day, I want us to remember a few things. But before we get into that, my name is Olive Monica Najuma, and I am joined by the fantastic two. That is Chirabo Robert Nyonyintono, and of course, Chantal Olive Akandinda. Now, speaking about today, this morning when I was coming to work, I was thinking about the old times, and I'm like, a lot happened when we were younger, right? We've all gone to school, we've gone to high school, and there are things that happened in high school that were coming back to my mind this morning. And it being Flashback Thursday, I would like to start with Chantal. Yes. Tell us about your high school. Good morning.
Good morning, Olive. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm doing very well. It's a Thursday. We're closing into the weekend.
Yes.
It's always good news when we're closing into the weekend. Always good news. My Thursdays, or when I think about my high school, there is so much to tell. I can assure you. I don't know where you would want me to start from, but
what is that outstanding thing that you remember from high school?
I was the tallest girl in school. Yes.
Really? You
that
had
one,
to do us like that this morning? You just confirmed to everyone that you're taller than me, and Chirabo has issues with that.
I can't help it.
Chirabo, good morning.
No, I don't know. I don't know why, for some reason, Russia has chosen to attack Ukraine this morning.
This morning?
I can assure you,
for some reason.
It's not personal, it's only business.
I don't know why. Russia has chosen again to
go into Ukraine.
But you know the thing we let this go by? We want violence, we don't want peace.
Let me first greet our viewers, because they have not begun with issues of height. A lovely morning to you, and thank you so much for waking up with us this lovely Thursday morning. At least it didn't rain, though we are in the rainy season. Now, for me, one thing that I remember so much during school, though yesterday, but now it was very unfortunate, because we lost one student and over 100 are injured. About 30 are in a very critical condition. That is in Manafa district, where these children were on a lorry and they were coming from a music competition. Then they had an accident. So one died on spot. There were over 100 and 30. We continue to pray for them. Now, this brought me back to the memories of high school. I wasn't a footballer, but I was a cheerleader. Someone you couldn't want to leave because I would disorganize the entire pitch. You know, short people usually. Short, small, tiny, but I was gifted in terms of supporting. I would go to the goal post of the other area and cause havoc. And when you concentrate on me, goals enter, then I take off before they work on me. So they would never leave me. If there was anything competition and you wanted someone to cheer, make noise, cause that havoc, and of course, definitely, you know, when you're short, you have an advantage that when you hide, you're not easily located.
Oh my God.
So I would be very sure.
Would disappear in the crowd.
Yeah, but I was also blessed with splinting. In the case I took off, you would see something that you.
Now,
so
speaking
I remember those trips where we didn't have vans, school vans,
yes,
but you had lorries. They would
that's
fetch.
true.
They would fetch firewood. They
Still
would
carry
they
you to
would
the
bring
destination.
benches and or desks. But still, if you're moving, you would climb on the lorry. Then you go singing, chanting, all that. It was so lovely.
It was. It was actually, speaking about the children being moved on lorries, you have reminded me of something. At the time I was in primary school, but I remember there was another grisly accident when students from Chinoni were on a lorry. They were from a sports event, it overturned and some of them died. And I remember the time it was very scary, and the government even issued a directive that school children should not be transported on lorries. They should be transported in vans and buses.
And it still stands. That directive still stands.
It still stands. So this school that did that, it is really sad, and I hope, by the way, the driver is on the run. Yeah, he decided. And I wonder, when accidents happen, for some reason, the person in charge of driving always survives.
Yes, I used to, growing up, I used to hear my dad say it's very hard for the driver to die because they have what to hold on to. The most that happens to them is their chest usually gets affected and maybe their face. But the other people who are not concerned with how the road is moving and how things are happening, they're not even aware. Sometimes these people see the accidents almost happening, so they get what to hold on to.
That's
unlike
true.
you who is in the passenger seat being driven.
And yeah, being in the driver's seat, you're seeing something from the side mirror.
You do.
You remember the accident that happened a couple of years ago at around Chira Road Police. The truck came
from
cruising
Bukoto,
down,
yes.
and I remember in that video you could see that the driver of the taxi saw the truck coming and he exited himself in record time. He was able to save himself, and of course
because they have to be alert on the road, so they will literally see some of these things.
They see the accident, their mind speaks to them of how best to avert it. And
So
I've
they
seen
act
some
fast.
accidents, not really seen, but when police is interrogating the drivers, the few that they're able to get, he'll tell you that, well, I had to drive away from my side to avoid the hitting to come closer to me, and the passenger got it better. You just look at the accident that claimed a former businessman upon you.
Right.
The driver didn't even have a
scratch.
And
Rarely
you wonder,
do
but this one
drivers-
lost
rarely do
life. So you would
drivers-
see that maybe somehow he tries to save himself in whatever position, leaving the rest there, because he has seen it happen. His mind is prepared and maybe body. And sometimes what kills people is shock. You know, shock.
And at that moment, you're
quick
trying
bang,
to save
yet this
yourself.
one psychologically, body-wise, he has prepared himself.
That's true. But now for me, flashing back to high school, I normally tell people I used to be a very shy person. And they don't believe me. One time I told Chantal, by the way, I used to be very shy. She's like, you, shy? Come on.
No.
But I used to be this very shy student, especially in primary and some part of the beginning of high school. Oh my goodness, I was bullied. I hate bullying because every time I remember some of the events in my school time, I'm like, no.
We should have been in the same school because in the family, I'm the family bully, so you can imagine what I would have done to you.
How do I even know you? Why do I know you? But anyway, a lot happened in the last 24 hours in our country, and of course the most outstanding for me at least was that the World Bank yesterday decided to pull funding from Uganda because of the law we passed a couple of months ago, that is the anti-homosexuality bill. But then the president responded responded when the World Bank said that. He said we can survive without the loans from the World Bank, and he said that our industries are growing. We will be having our first oil in 2025. He said we have agriculture, and he also said that there are many ways we can depend on ourselves and be able to survive. I'm curious, what do you think the country is going to, are we going to suffer without this funding, or like the president said, we will be able to stand on our own 2 feet?
One thing, as the head of a family, now for Uganda, His Excellency, the head of the family, you never...
Najuma, and I am joined by Chirabo Robert and of course Chantal Olive Akandinda. Now yesterday in the dailies and of course through all the headlines around our country, there was a story that made news and it had many Ugandans talking, and this story is related to the World Bank's decision to cut funding for Uganda. What is this all about? This is what we are going to be looking into. Why did they take this stance? Why? What has the president said? And of course, what is the feedback from Ugandans? Are they happy about this stance or not? Now, a little background about this decision by the World Bank. It is they decided to cut further funding or future funding to Uganda because we enacted a law against homosexuality. We will be delving deeper into that on this newsreel, and this morning I would like to go to Chantal. This story is huge. Right. Ugandans are talking, government is talking, members of parliament are reacting, ministers, and of course the headlines are there to prove that it is a heavy story. But coming back to you, take us through, why did the World Bank decide to take this decision?
Olive, you know, most of these bodies, especially the international bodies, there is that element of the values, inclusivity, and this is what has been stated by every other party that seems to have an issue with the Anti-Homosexuality Act, that bill that we put in place. So according to the World Bank, we are literally excluding this section of people, and this does not sync with the values put in place. So because of that, that is where we are seeing the World Bank coming out to say, we are, as much as we are committed, we have a very good relationship with Uganda, and we are committed to making sure that we avert poverty and change the lives of the Ugandans. But then again, we can't say we're changing the lives of Ugandans when you are excluding some of these people, when you are literally infringing on their rights. Apparently, this is human rights, infringing on people on human rights. So because of that, that is why the World Bank is saying, okay, we have set a team that is going to monitor how all this happens. If you're talking about this act, how bad is it? Where does it stop? How far does it go? When that assessment is done, then maybe we can have the conversation of, okay, it's not that bad. We can go ahead and proceed. But for now, the World Bank is not extending any funding to Uganda.
Okay. Now, when they say they're not extending any funding to Uganda, do we have an idea of some of the projects that the World Bank has been funding, and of course what that looks like for Uganda going forward?
We do have an idea, but right now, the funding is any new funding that is supposed to be coming through, and any new funding that is supposed to be coming through. So that means if you have a project and you're thinking of the World Bank could fund, don't think about it.
So the current funding, any project that is running at the time, whether it is health, whether it is in education, will continue. But when that is done, and if there is no new understanding between the government of Uganda, so what does the World Bank want? What do they want us to do?
Inclusion. Inclusion. You see, when you read the statement, yeah, when you read the statement by World Bank, maybe let me just say this: Uganda's Anti-Homosexuality Act fundamentally contradicts the World Bank Group's values. Statement of the World Bank: we believe our vision to eradicate poverty in a livable planet can only succeed if it includes everyone, irrespective of race, gender, or sexuality. This law undermines those efforts. Inclusion and non-discrimination sit at the heart of our work around the world. So basically, include these people in whatever you are doing.
And it matters not if they're the minority, according to the World Bank, include them.
Right. But then again, when you look at the fact that this bill was sent to President Museveni and he first sent it back to Parliament to get some of those details. And according to President Museveni, we are not saying we have an issue with them. All we are saying is the way activities are being conducted.
Well, speaking of what the president has said yesterday, after this news came out, the president issued a statement to Ugandans, to the Bazukulu, but he was also responding to the World Bank. And I would like to have a conversation with Chirabo. The president, he wrote, first of all, Mr. President, I didn't know that you studied medicine. Yeah, but anyway, the president responded to the World Bank. And he said, I remember tidbits of it where he said, we can survive without loans from the World Bank. What do you think about that stance?
Well, like I earlier said, one good thing about this is the World Bank is saying it will not approve any new request for loans from Uganda.
Yes.
It has quite a number of projects that are running or sectors it's supporting in our country, Uganda, as the World Bank. It has quite a number of sectors that it's supporting. And if I may be very, very fast about this, for example, if you look at environment and natural resources and blue energy, it supports 3%. And that is about 156 million US dollars. When you look at a sector, urban resilience and land, it supports 21% of that sector, injecting 1.1 billion shillings. That's quite a lot of money. When we look at
1.1 billion shillings?
US dollars. Now, when we go to, that is energy and interactive activities, the World Bank supports 16% in that sector. That means that the World Bank gives us about 832 million US dollars, coming very fast to governance. The World Bank, all these projects we have there, supports 10% of that sector, giving us about 520 million US dollars, plus a number of sectors. Now, when the World Bank says that it's not going to go to any other request, for us, when we go there seeking for funding, it means that many projects under these sectors are going to be stiffened. They're going to have challenges because we've greatly been relying on the World Bank. Actually, from 1986, when the NRM government, but then NRA had taken power, their biggest source of borrowing was the World Bank.
Yes.
Now, what will that mean when this person has stopped giving you money? Good. His Excellency, in his statement, said, Uganda, we've made milestones in the private sector, in the area of agriculture, and that's why even we've been able to have our inflation drop, which is good, that we must say. But also, we must understand that much as we've made tremendous steps in this direction, we still have a couple of challenges. And I was happy that the president highlighted them. One being corruption. He said, if we are to tame corruption, definitely there's much we'll be saving. But for me, what interested me most in the president's letter is when he talked about that most of these loans actually were gotten in a funny manner. And I want to look out for that in this statement. He said, in spite of the income inconsistency by corrupt officials, that then, however, the corrupt will be accountable for their betrayal and they will be, that is, brought to book. But there is where he says, I put down my foot, talking about the loans we are discussing about in the World Bank. years 4, he said that is why he moved ahead, that for any loan to be approved, he had to first consent. Because he had noticed that some of these loans actually were not gotten through the right, they didn't do enough analysis to see if they are good loans or they are bad loans. And actually they became more of a burden to us than being a way through to achieve what we wanted.
Not forgetting that most times we don't use that money.
Yes, you get a loan before prior preparation.
Right.
Now you begin servicing the loan even for a project that has not kicked off.
Right.
You know, maybe you have to look at compensating people. Now you get a loan before even issues of compensation.
Valuing, before even knowing how much you're going to pay. Yes.
So a project stays for 5 years.
And we are given a timeline. A case in point is the Kampala Northern Bypass. That project took way longer than the time it was supposed to take.
So,
and this costs us money.
For me, in the president's statement, that is what I found very, very powerful, that much as we would sit back and say we are going to lose out on this funding, but this funding, most times where it has not been well scrutinized, has even been more of a problem to us. You know, you're servicing a loan, you've not yet paid for that loan. And second, the president says we are also reducing on our borrowing appetite. You have a debt burden of about 87 trillion. You have a budget of about 59 trillion. But your debt burden, look at your budget, a big chunk of your budget is going to debt servicing. So for me, as a Ugandan one, much as this may be painful, but every time I look at an element that is depriving us of borrowing,
you're happy?
I'm happy. Because most of the times we've borrowed without preparing very well ourselves. It's like you going for a loan in a bank. You know, most of the times I've witnessed the swearing in of members of parliament. And as they are swearing in, the compound of parliament is full of banks.
Now, on that,
ready to give them what?
When
loans.
you say that.
So out of excitement, these members of parliament go for loans.
Now, let me tell you this. When you say that, I agree with you 100%. I used to be a banker, and one of the things I used to see was that members of parliament were highly indebted because they were taking all these loans. Most of them, first of all, they borrow money during the campaign trail to facilitate campaigns. And when they become members of parliament, the lifestyle has to change. If you've been wearing a suit from Chiembe, now you want to go to winner class and buy a suit because lifestyle has changed, the class has gone up. And because of that, they live beyond their means. But at the end of the day, who suffers most? It's the government, because they're supposed to pay them. Actually, at some point when Rebecca Kadaga was still Speaker of Parliament, he wrote to financial institutions and told them that if you give these people loans, you're on your own. And members of parliament are high-risk borrowers. That's how they are graded in the banking sector. So I hear you when you say that.
So reduce your appetite. Now, if we may not be getting new loans, it may help us service what we have. And when the president comes out and identifies that actually this thing we are clinging on, we are losing, we've been having challenges. When he says for the last 2 years, he said, for you to approve any loan, I must look at this loan. Have we done enough preparation? But also, something that His Excellency maybe did not touch in this statement, in the letter he penned down, is the fact that much as our economy is growing, much as the agriculture sector is growing, and the private sector is doing so great in our country, thanks to the Private Sector Foundation of Uganda, we now have the presidential task on exports promotion. There's so much that is being done. There's also something that Ugandans must understand at such a time, that even we've extended Uganda's relationship with so many other countries and blending institutions. There are so many programs or projects in this country now under the Exim Bank of China. So many. Look at our road sector.
Yes.
There are so many under the Africa Development Bank. You know, there are so many under various lending, international lenders that we are going in as a country. And also, one thing that you must also understand, that because of COVID-19, even many lending institutions became a bit frugal.
That's true.
We had where you would have concessional loans and non-concessional loans, or commercial and non-commercial loans. Commercial loans are these loans where they have a bit of higher interest and a shorter period to pay.
Right. Yes.
Now, those are very good for government because they will give you maybe 10 years to pay back and the interest is low. Now, commercial loans are those, they are quick to get, but the interest is a bit high and the paying back period is a bit
long.
It's a bit shorter. Shorter. So those are now what are available. And when a country continuous borrows and goes into what she called a high risk, it becomes hard for the international market to get loans. So us having a borrowing appetite to certain levels trimmed is okay, because it gives you the ability to better look into your country. We are talking about corruption. Now a big chunk of this borrowed money is wasted. Now, when you have little, you look at priorities of how you improve your earnings, but you also go into closing gaps of wastage.
You basically come back into your house and start to look at the corners. You need to switch, rather to sweep, for lack of a better word.
I don't know if I'm getting, if I'm being negative. Sorry to cut you short, Olive. But think about it like this. President Museveni, the father of the home, thinks like this. But does his wife think the same? The wife in this wife, right now I'm talking about the legislators, the ministries, and whoever is responsible for planning and spending the little that we're going to remain with. Are they buying into his vision? Are they on the same page with him? Because President Museveni is well-intended in almost in everything he does. Well-intended, very good plans, very good, everything put in place by President Museveni is good. The question is, the people who are implementing, are they in agreement with him? The ministers that he has put forward for us, are they actually working according to the plan he has?
Advising him rightly, because as the president, he employs some of these people to point him in the right direction.
In the right direction,
so
to implement
their job.
Yes, to implement what he wants for the country.
Exactly. And before Chirabo weighs in on that, it's a pertinent question, by the way. You can join this conversation by WhatsApping us on 0773-213-275. It is the number that is on your screen. And you can also tweet to us. The hashtag is UBCGMU, and share your opinion regarding World Bank suspension of financing to Uganda. What do you think? How is it going to affect us? Is it a step in the right direction? Share your opinions. We would love to hear from you. Now, coming back to Chirabo, Chantal posed a good question.
Chantal posed $1 million question. Not just a question.
$1 million.
$1 million question. Why am I saying so? When the president talks about people being patriotic, in this letter he wrote, handwritten, he talks about corruption. But unfortunately, I don't remember when the talk about corruption started in this country. We've ever had zero tolerance. We've ever had Chisanja, Hakuna Mchezo.
Yes.
We've had, we've had campaigns for corruption in this country. We've ever had the anti-corruption walk. It looked funny.
But then the people who walked, some of them were people who had been involved
Constitutional
in graft
Square,
cases,
known by many as City Square, to Kororo. And I was around the compound. I was about to drive out, and the band and all that. So I moved at the gate to see who are these Ugandans
who are walking,
and passionately to walk all the way from Constitutional Square.
Were they opposition? Were they on the side of the government?
Government, mixed civil society. And when they reached there, UBC covered that event live, if I remember. I said, no, let me rush up, tune on TV. And one man, may his soul rest in eternal peace, made a statement, and that was the former speaker, the late Jacob Olanya. He said, Your Excellency, all of us here are corrupt. We are doing this, but after here, we are going back to do the same things
that we are working
now, that we are working for. And of course, some criticize, most of the opposition, that you can't kick corruption by walking, you know?
Of course.
By walking. But unless we wake up, he talked about patriotism, pushing
Discipline.
accountability, discipline, unless we agree to end corruption. The president has good, but it's like a father in a home. He has the direction for Uganda. That's why even one time he said we're already in the middle income state. That was subjected to people's opinions and views and experts. And
even
whatever.
the World Bank weighed in.
Even the World Bank came out, and of course even Bank of Ghana. But what is important is we've failed to fit into the perspective of His Excellency. He's a lonely wolf when it comes to a talk against corruption. Unless we agree as a country and we agree to make sacrifices, I want to use the word sacrifice. You know, for us Christians, when we talk about sacrifice, we relate it to what God did. That even reached a level of sacrificing His only Son for our sins. When we still have issues with our judiciary, when we still have issues of letting people off the hook, when we still have selective justice, you know?
When
When
the
we
law
still
has
have
eyes.
people, ministers, members of parliament misappropriating funds and resources and keeping their offices.
And when you see, to a certain level, I usually watch Joel Senyonyi, Kosasa. And I see the passion, these people, how they excite us in the media. Today it is Uganda Airlines, you all talk. Tomorrow it is Uganda Railways. Today it is UNBS. Talk about which parastatal, by the way, is clean. And the media, the IGG's reports. She's my good friend, and I'm almost getting fed up of reading these reports because they indicate money lost. But the Uganda, was it taken by a ghost?
And
People suspected. Now, when World Bank cuts aid, and you have little to spend,
Clean house.
I want to believe maybe because we've tried all interventions. Maybe this is divine intervention. That now we are going to have scarcity of resources. We are going to sit down and say, if, for example, you've been handling $1 billion, and this time you have 500 to spend. Of course, you're a bit stingy, you know. Of course, we shall wake up and maybe now further investigate, bring to book, and we fight corruption. But as of now, what Chantal talked about, that are people in sync with His Excellency, I want to tell you, many public servants only condemn corruption when they don't benefit from corruption. We've even reached a point where someone knows I need to get some money for me to be able to get a service. You tell someone so-and-so has been arrested, the first thing they will tell you, even before asking for what offense has he committed, police. As if they're going to purchase something. You tell someone, I'm going to this hospital, you know, government hospital. He says, and what
you're saying,
we've gotten to that.
Exactly, what you're saying makes so much sense. Like I usually say, even on this program, is that fighting corruption starts and ends with us as individuals. That 5K you put on the side to give the traffic officer, you are enabling a behavior. You are enabling a disease that is festering through our society. But now going back to a point where we may have less, because now this funding has been pulled out. And in the event that, because the president said they are still talking to the World Bank to come to an agreement, but let's say that the agreement probably doesn't work in Uganda's favor. Of course, we hope that it does. But in the event that it doesn't, what do we do? we come back home. We have a bloated parliament. We have a bloated cabinet. We need to clean house. And also, this is the time we become stronger in our and resolute about fighting corruption. If someone has misappropriated funds, if someone is being investigated over corruption, why are they still in their office? A minister was sent to jail for a few days over the Mabati scandal. That minister has never resigned.
But you see also our laws,
but then again,
our laws are also, you know, certain things come out funny. Because in Uganda, you remain a suspect until proven guilty by a competent court.
Yes, you are a suspect,
and these ministers are political appointees. They're not like public servants that the law cautions them on this. Now, these are political appointees. So the law is not clear on what happens to them.
Let me remind you that at some point, our government loses interest in those cases. Just to remind you. Yeah, some of those cases, yes, government loses interest, and that means you can't go further with such a case. Something happened to the Mabati scandal.
Where is it
we
now?
Lost interest.
It was in, like he said, we get excited, the media excites us, and then we jump onto the next best thing.
That is the problem. Now, like I earlier told you, according to World Bank, there is still third-party monitoring that is taking place. Yeah, and this includes assessments, and it's bound to increase significantly according to the statement. So that means it will allow the bank to take what we call corrective action that will be necessary at a particular point. So what we are waiting for in the moment is going forward, what happens if our law is actually as bad as the World Bank thinks, then we are done for it. There is no more funding that is going to be coming through. But scrolling through social media, after seeing that statement from the World Bank, some Ugandans had something to say.
Now, before you share what Ugandans had to say, I have a statement by the president to the Bazukulu, and I will read it verbatim. Ugandans, especially the Bazukulu, greetings. Things are moving well in Uganda in spite of the corruption of some public servants and some elements of the political class. The private sector in farming and manufacturing are the ones developing and transforming Uganda in spite of the inconveniences by the corrupt officials. That is why inflation is now 3.9%, one of the lowest in the world. However, the corrupt will be accountable for their betrayal and they will be weeded out. That is a very strong statement. Last night, an official from the World Bank rang me to alert me about the statement from that bank regarding the suspension of any new requests from Uganda for loans. I want to inform everybody, starting with Ugandans, that Uganda will develop with or without loans. And he went on to say, as a matter of fact, many of the loans in the past were being carelessly entered into by officials. Yes, that's what you said earlier.
Yes.
So he says the loans were carelessly entered into by officials behind his back, the president. And he said when they were completely unnecessary. Like Chirabo said, we've been getting loans and some of these loans were not necessary and the president wasn't in the know. Anyway, according to the president, he says, that is why some years ago I put down my foot and forbade agreeing to any loan before my approval. Hence, we are now borrowing less and cautiously. Yet our economy is growing. Other global challenges such as the war in Europe, coronavirus, etc. notwithstanding. If there is absolute need for borrowing, there are a number of non-Bretton Woods sources from where we can borrow. And he goes on to say, moreover, our fast oil will start flowing by 2025. That will be an additional source of state revenues and also financial flow into the economy. With discipline, patriotism, and combating corruption, we shall thrive because our agriculture is there, our industries are growing, and our services sector is expanding. It is therefore unfortunate that the World Bank and other actors dare to want to coerce us into abandoning our faith, culture, principles, and sovereignty using money. They really underestimate all Africans. Wow, that is a good stance. And he says, I have patiently explained to some of the actors that merely being a homosexual is not targeted by this law. It is going from being a homosexual to recruit or coerce others into your deviance that is targeted by the law. The president continues to say, if there are any residual illogicalities in the law, we shall identify them and handle them ourselves like we fought Idi Amin, the other tyrants, and extended solidarity to our brothers and sisters in Southern Africa that were fighting colonialism and apartheid. And he concludes by saying, we do not need pressure from anybody to know how to solve problems in our society. They are our problems. We are continuing to talk with the World Bank so that both they and we avoid this diversion, or if possible. And he signed it, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, General, the retired General, Sabalwanyi.
Indeed, Sabalwanyi, true African man. And over time, we are lacking such people that are true African people who, now when you talk about the likes of Nkwama Nkrumah, Nelson Mandela, Mwalimu Julius Nyerere, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni,
the men that were worth
that
being
look at
called
African
men
perspective.
of valor.
And the good thing is that all Ugandans, I stand to be corrected, all Ugandans, one thing we agree is that we need this law. I've not seen any member.
Anti-homosexuality
we need it.
law.
All Ugandans, we agree, our faith, our culture, who we are, we need this law.
Well, I'll read.
Our brothers may not understand, and this is what I've seen the president labeling to explain. If you're doing your acts, we have no problem. Do them, because even in Africa, such acts, we don't do them in public. We don't promote them, you know. We don't recruit people into them. It
is something that is normal. You are a man, you like a woman, you are a woman, you like a man, life moves on. And
you don't go on streets, you don't have organizations giving people, telling them now, so what we are saying, have your whatever in your own ways.
Just
don't recruit, don't coerce, don't promote.
And don't force.
Don't force. Force is more or less coercing others. We have no problem with you. But the bad thing is that people who have misinterpreted this are peddling lies regarding Uganda, that homos in Uganda are going to be killed. The maximum sentence for aggravated defilement in terms of homosexuality is death. Even if it is not homosexuality, our law still, aggravated defilement is death.
So this
so
is
they're
not
simply peddling lies
case
about Uganda.
And that's why the
using
president,
this
in
law.
his statement,
the picture they are painting is very wrong, because some are getting free visas, refugee status, asylum status. Others are non-government organizations, and civil society has done bad to Uganda in this area, because he who pays the piper determines the tune. Yes. I've seen people of integrity, people that hold families, people that have trusted in my career on camera speaking as if they have been brainwashed, you know, misinterpreting that a lawyer comes up, says now we are going to kill homos. We've never killed any homosexuality in Uganda. Neither are we going to kill any. As long as you abide by, but you're going to allow you defile a young child because you are homo and you're protected. Because
actually, where did this conversation start? This conversation started by a letter from a parent, a letter that went viral, of a parent with a child in King's College, Budo, who said that her child had been molested or sodomized by a teacher.
A teacher, yes.
This is where the conversation began, when Ugandans were saying, you cannot do this to our children. You can't force our children. You can't coerce our children into this behavior. The president likes to call it deviance. But I would like for you to share your opinion regarding the World Bank's decision to suspend funding to Uganda basing on the anti-homosexuality law. They're saying this is wrong. We are seeking for inclusion and we would like Uganda to repeal that, or we are not giving you any more loans. And I have a few comments from contributors on social media, and this one says, hello, my name is Anthony from Ginger. For me, I'm worried about World Bank suspension fund in Uganda, as the civil servants will suffer and no more enhancement. We have to also open our eyes to investments. By the way, where is Felix? Yeah, Felix is no longer with us, but he sends you his warm greetings every time. And another comment, this person says, good morning, UBC. This is Omairo Martin from Serere. The suspension of World Bank funding is okay. Actually, most of the borrowing we have had has just been enriching some few corrupt Ugandans. As the president clearly says, we need to bundle corruption, but I keep wondering if really the president is ready to fight corruption. He goes on to say, Ugandans are so corrupt that starting from revenue collection in the parishes, local revenue is not all submitted. We have so many ministers, so many legislators. If the government curbs leakages in revenue collection, reduced parliament, reduced ministers, proper utilization of the available funds, we may not need to worry about their money. And the next comment, he says, thanks for the program. This manager at Englishman Auto Garage, Chere, in Sere District. Talking about the cutting off of funds from outside countries, this country, ours, can stand without loans. Just like a father can stop picking food from the great home and struggle harder to stand, to help his family stand on its own. He also says that we must stop their funding because of homosexuality. They must stop stressing our beautiful country, and the motto is for God and my country, and he says he's representing Serere. So basically the contributors on social media are saying exactly some of the things you've been saying, but Chantal, before we close, you wanted to share a few comments still from Ugandans.
Well, Ugandans don't seem to be amused by the fact that this whole thing has been inclined to homosexuality. Some are citing the double standards in the moment, and some are citing the fact that we are now getting away from neo-colonialism because the funding and the grants and the loans are a way of keeping some of these countries.
He who pays the piper determines the tune.
Wow.
But he's right. He who pays the piper determines the tune.
Right.
Yeah.
So someone called Adonia Ayebare says, this is whimsical behavior by World Bank towards a member state. The values referred to in taking this draconian decision against Uganda are not universal. They are contested. This makes the case for reform of work methods, including the board, more urgent and pertinent. Tags the president and Robbie Kakonge. But also, now that World Bank has cut off Uganda from new loans over our rejection of homosexuality, BRICS August 2023 has taken on new importance for at Kaguta Museveni, with an impressive account of 44 nations already expressing interest. I may not complete this comment because of time, but you realize that when you go through these comments, people are starting to mention the BRICS, the BRICS, pulling out pictures of President Museveni with President Putin and what has been happening lately. So maybe it's a new shift altogether, according to some of the comments that are coming in on social media.
Well, we would like to hear more from you. This conversation continues online. You can share your opinions. We would love to read them and know where you stand regarding the World Bank's decision to cut funding of future projects for Uganda, or giving us loans because of the anti-homosexuality bill. We are still here, and we will be taking you through the dailies from the East African countries of Kenya and Tanzania.
We'll begin with what the Citizen has this morning for you. Why fuel marketeers require 747 million US dollars. Well, that is there for you. Africa now eyes visa-free travel and memorial parks. Still, we look at East Africa set to act over frequent Lake Victoria maritime distress and employers' key role in fight against HIV/AIDS. That is in the Citizen.
And in the Daily Nation, that is in our neighbor here, Kenya, the big salary review is the top headline right here. So you might want to get to know what is happening in that country. SRC says review seeks to harmonize salaries across the public service. And also away from that, we're seeing a report of exposing rot at the immigration. Also, Ruto Raila talks off to a cordial start. That and so much more in today's copy of the Daily Nation. Please do grab yourself one if you can.
Well, you're still watching Good Morning Uganda. My name is Olive Monica Najuma. We will take a short break and we'll be back with traffic updates. And later on, we will be back with Good Morning Uganda agenda.
This weekend on UBC.
Is it possible that marriage was created for permanence and not for just jumping in and out?
There's that scripture that tells us that as long as it depends upon you, live at peace with everybody. Yeah. So which means I can actually have a very bad wife and have a good marriage because I'm a peacemaker.
Oh, I love what you're saying.
Personally, I don't think I can be truly Christian and I have a bad marriage. If I'm Christian, I'm supposed to die to myself.
Yes, sir.
Because the Bible says, he who loves his life will lose it.
Yes.
He who loses his life for me will gain it.
Yes, sir.
Generally speaking, like if we went with that scripture, the Bible says, I hate there, it says that, why then did Moses allow us? It says, because of the hardness of your hearts.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
so for me, looking back on our 25 years,
yes.
all the tensions we had was either my hard heart or her hard heart or both.
This weekend on UBC.
The Presidential CEO Forum, together with the Office of the Prime Minister and Captains of Industry in the private sector, in collaboration with the Science, Technology and Innovation Secretariat, National Planning Authority and Kira Motors Corporation, will convene the fourth biannual private sector CEO retreat from August 2nd to 3rd, 2023 at the Kira Vehicle Plant in Jinja City under the theme Uganda's Industrialization Agenda, positioning Uganda as a net source of e-mobility solutions in Africa, hosted by His Excellency the President of the Republic of Uganda, General Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. The fourth CEO's retreat will explore how to deepen value addition in Uganda's industry and build a sustainable and integrated e-mobility ecosystem in order to maximize the potential for development with substantial economic benefits, including wealth and job creation. To participate, please contact the Presidential CEO Forum Secretariat on 0393 249 530 and via email info@pcf.go.ug.
Pick of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by
MTN Momo Pay is the easy way to pay. Dial star 165 star 3 hash or use the MTN Momo app. You don't need cash. MTN Momo Pay is safe and free.
UBC is the national public broadcaster. We educate, inform, entertain, and inspire our audiences. You can watch us on free-to-air channel 001, DSTV channel 282, GoTV channel 371, Star Times channel 201, Zuku TV channel 20, and Azam TV channel 350. Even when your subscription expires, you can still watch UBC for free on your pay TV platforms.
I hope you're having a beautiful morning on this 10th day of August 2023. My name is Olive Monica Najuma, and I am here to take you through traffic updates this morning. I'm hoping that you prepared yourself and that you are ready to hit the road. Now, if you're wondering where to pass and you're coming from the areas of Chanja, coming to the main business center or going to some other feeder roads within Chanja area, I am here to guide you. Maybe you will find a closed route that will work for you, a route that may not have as much traffic. Now, we will pick it up from Gayaza Kumbuzi around Fox Out, and that place looks very clear, so you will be able to move steadfastly. Now, when I take a look at Waligo Road, it looks pretty good. A little bit of hold up here and there, but largely okay, so you don't have to worry about that route. Now, when we move to Gayaza Road, going ahead, you're going to find some bits of traffic, but it is spaced out, so it means you are not going to be delayed a lot. Now, when we continue still along Gayaza Road and the road that goes to Baha'i House of Worship, there is little bits of traffic there where you can spend maybe 5, 6, 8 minutes, but it's still nothing to worry about. But continuing to Kalere, where Kalere Market is, there is some bit of hold-ups in different spaces. I think because of the commotion that is usually around the area of the market. Many people are going into the market, coming off the market road, so you may be delayed there a bit. Actually, when you cross over and you look at the side of Kalere where Akamwesi shopping mall is, yeah, it's still there are different positions of traffic in those areas, but still there is nothing that is going to hold you up for over 30 minutes and beyond. Now, going back to Bombo Road, there the traffic seems to be a bit more, and when you're coming from La Grande Hotel, which is somewhere near the Northern Bypass, yeah, there you're going to find some bit of traffic. I see the red zones are building up, and it looks like that is an area where you're going to find a bit more traffic. Now, continuing still along Bombo Road, yeah, there are sections after the Synagogue Church of All Nations where you're going to find some traffic, and of course, as you head to Watoto Church, traffic seems to be moving on smoothly, but of course there are a few orange zones that show that there will be some bit of hold up here and there, I think, as people try to reach their destinations in record time. Now, around Watoto Church downtown, yes, there is a hold up there. As you know, around Watoto Church downtown, there is a road that goes to Chiseka Market. There are cars going to Wandegea, those proceeding to Kampala Road. So yes, that explains the hold up. But after that section, you will be able to move along pretty well. Now, coming back to Yusuf Lule Road, as you head to Fairway Boutique Hotel, there is a bit of a hold up there, but not so much. And around the traffic lights, it looks like you won't spend so much time there. I think traffic is letting up for a bit, so you will be able to get into the city center. But if I'm to go back this side of Chira Road, yeah, I see many red zones there. So around Kabira Country Club, you may have to spend a bit of time there, but we know that there are traffic lights there, and those traffic lights, sometimes it feels like they let out like 2 to 3 cars and then they stop you. So that explains the hold up I see around there on the road that goes to Protea Hotel, Skies, and of course coming into the heart of town. Lugogo Bypass looks clear, just a few sections of traffic hold up, but if you're using any of those routes today, unlike some other days, the red zones are really few. I see more green zones, and green zones mean that there is a smooth flow of traffic, so you should be able to get to your place of work, your place of business, or wherever you're going in record time. That's it for our traffic updates this morning. I'm hoping that you do enjoy your day. And as you go through your day, you may want to think about the things that are on your car. Have you serviced your car? For instance, when did you last change your oil? You need to look at these things so that you are not a danger to yourself, but also to a danger to other road users. Sometimes people will stretch the time they need to service their cars, and that is a danger to the car and to you, your family, everyone that you keep in that car, but also the people that are on the road that you use. We need to do our best to avert the road carnage on our roads in this country. My name is Olive Monica Najuma, and coming up next will be Good Morning Uganda Agenda.
Upgrade your lifestyle with the all-new entry-loaded Chillax voice bundles. Now, call all networks in Uganda with Chillax voice bundles. Call all networks, no expiry, no worries. Dial *100 *1 hash and select call all networks. Airtel, a reason to imagine.
Greatness is all around us. On pitches, fields, and playgrounds. At home and far away. It lives in the past, and it's in the faces we look up to, and in those we see every day. Greatness is all around us. It takes us beyond limitations, beyond possibility, beyond doubt, beyond expectations. The only question is, where will it take us next?
Introducing the Infinix Note 30 series in partnership with Airtel Uganda, a smartphone where style meets functionality. Take charge of the day with special features like the 108MP triple camera and 68 watts first charge, and the best part is you can use this phone to charge other phones. You also will enjoy free 3GB from Airtel every month for 3 months on each new device purchased. Dial *100 hash, select data and devices to get your free data. The Infinix Note 30 series Spark, a connection in partnership with Airtel, a reason to imagine.
UBC is the national public broadcaster. We educate, inform, entertain, and inspire our audiences. You can watch us on free-to-air channel 001, DSTV channel 282, GoTV channel 371, Star Times channel 201, Zuku TV channel 20, and Azam TV channel 350. Even when your subscription expires, you can still watch UBC for free on your pay TV platforms.
The biggest, the baddest East African Christian Marathon is here. Come participate at the East African Christian Marathon for a prayer run on the 13th of August 2023 at the Lugogo Hockey Grounds. Come represent your family at the prayer run and run for a good cause to build the first call center, which will be East Africa's virtual listener. Come for the prayer run alongside your pastors, leaders, representatives from Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi, Congo, South Sudan, and of course Uganda. Participate with Honorable Captain Mike Mukula, who is the chief runner and patron. Do not miss out on this opportunity. Make your donation for your kid now from 20,000, 30,000, and 100,000 Uganda shillings, because runs change the world. For more details, call 0781 885 055 or visit our website at www.eastafricachristianmarathon.org. Proudly sponsored by PKF, UBC, Venro Health, Aquafina, and Moving Preacher.
Amaina gange ndi namaganda Mariamu Monda, myoga jaida. Emyoga ijitandika okwida. n'afunamu esente bampa yakakayira ak'esente bwe bampa akakayira ak'esente nayiye ekyokukola nasookera ku mutyere omutyere gwapanga beeyi n'aguvaako n'anoonya omwana twageddaga n'amagezi n'agema esente edo n'amuwa yajja yagula supeya ow'ebyuma muno pikipiki n'obugaali buti essaawa eno ndi kuyiiya okuleeta ebyuma ebimala ku bwena abakabiri bampayireyo ku esente nakoba okunoonyayo abaana babeegeresenga gano okukanika ki pikipiki era bali kujja mpolampola nga bakanika era esente bwe tunaaba tudifuna nenda kwongera mu maani mu sente bwenaaba ndifunye twongeremu ntewo bizinensi emala nenda okwebaza gavumenti egiira okutulowoozaako niife abaagansi mu kyalo okufuna esente kuba twalinga n'esente nga tulumukira mu banka bugiri butige baida kunumba ng'eno najjayo ku bwe baida kunumba baida kutaa ku bigandiiko aye dino tutwalayo mpolampola nenda okwebaza gavumenti olw'okulowooza ku nsonga eyo mukama abawa omukisa.
Nkwanga Ramazan is my name, the head teacher of this great school, Ikumbia Seed Secondary School. The school has the staff room well furnished, administration well furnished, the computer lab well furnished, the library wonderful, the multipurpose hall well furnished. The teachers are also enjoying in the staff quarters. The school has teachers totaling to 28. Ikumbia Seed has embraced the new curriculum. I want to thank the government for that bright idea. There are many students that end up in senior 4 with no document. But with the coming of the IT, the skilled children are going to have certificates in skills as early as senior 3. And that certificate is equivalent to a senior 4 certificate. Ikumbia Seed Secondary School is a very great school that has influenced the lives of people or changed the lives of people of Ikumbia sub-county. I want to thank the parents and the government for this kind of input.
Amaina gange ninze tusuubira lyaga Margaret. Ndi Munawanyago Tailors Association SACCO ey'emyoga. Tuli batunzi ba byalaani. So ife nga Nawanyago SACCO twafunako emiliyoni 8 era bagiire nga badiiza mpola mpola ate nga bwe bongera n'okusavingaku era akasente ako katuyambyeku katutoolaku wetwali katwongeraku eidaala okusobola okweyamba n'okwesitula mu maka gaife n'okulabirira famire gaife. Era tutwala omukisa guno okwebaza gavumenti yaife eya Muzeeyi Museveni Yoweri Kaguta Tibuwabulwa olw'okutuyamba ife abantu abawansi.
The biggest, the baddest East African Christian Marathon is here. Come participate at the East African Christian Marathon for a prayer run on the 13th of August 2023 at the Lugogo Hockey Grounds. Come represent your family at the prayer run and run for a good cause to build the first call center which will be East Africa's virtual listener. Come for the prayer run alongside your pastors, leaders, representatives from Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi, Congo, South Sudan, and of course Uganda. Participate with Honorable Captain Mike Mukula, who is the chief runner and patron. Do not miss out on this opportunity. Make your donation for your kid now from 20,000, 30,000, and 100,000 Uganda shillings, because runs change the world. For more details, call 0781 885 055 or visit our website at www.eastafricachristianmarathon.org. Proudly sponsored by PKF, UBC, Venro Health, Aquafina, and Moving Preacher.
Amaina gange nze Basile Benard, Field Officer wa Ituba A, Ituba B, Nakibengo, Chikokoli, obumu ku byalo Model Village muzeyi de yasalawo okugayigawaza ng'atwala abantu mu bwavu. Atya muzeyi ajja atuweereza ebintu ng'ente, embiidi, ebigogo, mwogo, nanansi, twagabira abantu abamuli okumpi. Aye omala kweteekateeka tubaleeta buleeta ntukuwa nga tuweeteeseteese ng'ente olina okuzimba ekiyumba eky'ente, geba mbiidi eky'embiidi, geba embuzi eby'embuzi. Nga tumaze kusomesa twakutweyininga wakola ebyetaagisa. Bw'oba ng'oli kwenda mbuzi tulina engeri tukutweyininga mu wazimba ekiyumba eky'embuzi. Era ge tuba tukuwaira embuzi eyo neezaala twenda kwenkaana. Enkaana eyo tunoonya omuntu ataafuna twasolozaako ku bantu nga basatu ababazaaziiza twagaako omuntu owundi ye tumaze okutweyininga yonna tukola tutyo. Ente tukola paasonu, embiidi donna tukola paasonu. Bantu bangi bafunyemu. In fact nga Model Village nsuubira nti abantu nga 10 bafunyemu kuba abandi bazimbyemu amayumba, abandi balisomesaamu abaana bagwe tibalifuna bukalubino okutoola kuyo omuntu oyo omulala atafaayo kuwulirisa mulanga gwa gavumenti.
My name is Abel Bakunda, Deputy RDC Kario District. There are so many success stories and achievements that have been registered in Kario District and cutting across all the sectors and departments. The government interest is to have seed schools in almost every sub-county. And so far, the coverage in Kairo, we are still like at 40%. We are starting, but we are moving at a high speed. Then the Uganda Health Center, it is also a success story in the Department of Health. We are so far also the government is elevating the Manya Health Center for the district hospital. Then in the Department of Production, there are so many successful farmers moving far away from the traditional subsistence farming to the money economy. Our interventions of Myoga and PDM have so far had impacts on ground. Generally, it is good. We are trying, and there are so many success stories that anybody can come and see on ground.
As Gulu District Farmers Association, in 2 districts of Omoro and Gulu, 14,300 farmers benefited from this project, whereby if you go to that link of Gulu District Farmers Association, you have all the details of the number of farmers who have been benefiting from this project. One thing Gulu District Farmers Association benefited from this project called Prelno, it has strengthened the extension system of the DFA, or the Gulu District Farmers Association, whereby there were capacity building of each of the staff, the one in Gulu, the one in Omoro. Before this farmer group, I also benefited from this project, whereby, particularly for me, the other achievement I made, because in fact, I think all in all, I'm being, I could say, the luckiest, to me particularly in my achievement, because I finished my university in 2020. Immediately I came for Prelno. So I understood every structure, what's all about in Prelno, whereby I had to achieve. I constructed also a house home. I also had a bull, whereby they hope my museum from home for plowing. So that's briefly what I can say. Thank you so much.
These days, our homes are no longer just the places we live. It's where we attend meetings, go to class, keep each other safe, and entertain ourselves. To do this smoothly, you need a reliable internet connection. Buy the MTN WakaNet router which connects up to 32 devices and gets a free 40 GB data bundle at only 149,000 shillings. Or buy the MTN Wakanet MiFi at only 75,000 shillings and enjoy a free 15 GB bundle to stream, study, work, and play on the go. Visit any MTN service center to buy the MTN Wakanet router or MiFi and enjoy the internet that does amazing things.
You're still watching Good Morning Uganda. Thank you so much for joining us. This is time for Good Morning Uganda Agenda, and I'm joined by Robert Chirabo Nyonyintono and Chantal Olive Akandinda. Now, this morning, we would like to have a conversation regarding the safety on water transport, or safety on lakes, if you may. We have had a couple of stories in the past few weeks where people died on Lake Victoria because the boat capsized. A few of them were retrieved by the by the Marine Unit, but other bodies are still missing. And of course, these stories are not secluded. We have had accidents on water over the years. We remember in 2018 when the MV Templar went down and over 33 people died. Of course, 26 were rescued, but still it left a sour taste in many Ugandans' mouth because there were questions asked about the rescue response, the timeliness of it, and many other questions. So this morning, we are going to delve into that conversation. Now, coming to Robert first. There has been conversations regarding the same accidents on our waters because we are not going to just focus on Lake Victoria in as much as it's the biggest lake in our country. We will also look at other accidents that have happened on other lakes. Like last week, 2 men died in Lake Choga. So all of those are our waters. What do you think is lacking as far as ensuring safety on water transport in Uganda is concerned?
First is sensitization. You know, knowledge is power. And sometimes what seems obvious may not be obvious to many people. There are many things that you think it is just you may just feel that it's just about common sense. And I'm not saying it in an abusive way, but it's just simple understanding that anyone would take it that way. Like, you'd think if someone's given a mosquito net, it is, you know,
use the
common.
sleep under the mosquito net
Sleep
so
under
that you
it,
avert.
because you even feel mosquitoes dancing around your ears, and so sleep, protect yourself so that you don't fall sick. But government gives them out and protect them for fishing. Others have them and they are keeping them, or for what reason they still. So sensitization first on water transport is lacking. Look at helmets. A border rider keeps it, then later you find the helmet the other side and the head is more or less like a smashed watermelon. But the money is gone. Now, water transport, first we must look at it in a broader picture. We have people that use boats for their movement. These are not fishermen. Recently, people have adopted moving on water even more than ever. If you remember when the Katonga Bridge was cut off, people would drive, you get to Nachuogo, get a vessel, continue. People and the rich love staying on islands. You know, people over the weekend, you have your home, you go and board, go to an island. People are doing various businesses. Government has extended a bit of some resources there. There are health workers. So many businesses happening there. So one may not necessarily have to be a fisherman. We have islanders who have their merchandise. They come to sell on the other side. So it's broader. But what is lacking is sensitization first. That people must know what the law says. People must be empowered with the right information so that they can save their lives. I want to give you a very quick example on that. Yesterday I was speaking to the Marines commandant, and he said very many times, people have life jackets when the boat is setting off.
Okay.
But along the way, they choose to remove them. They remove these life jackets, and comfortably, they're still on water. And when an accident happens, they don't have the life jackets with them. So that may be common sense in one way, but because a person is not well sensitized or empowered with information on why they should have that life jacket on. Talk about overloading. You know, fishermen will tell you, and those who move on water, that when the worst comes to the worst, we shall pick some of the goods, drop them in water, so the boat will become light. But sometimes in the struggle of selecting whose are we taking, Chantal's goes in water, Olive's goes in water, or mine goes in water to save us.
But they're doing it in a very fast manner, and people are already scared. So
and even
before you know it,
they are
there is
dying.
drowning. Yes.
They are drowning and they're already dead. You know, because they lack information. Talk about one of the most killer of fishermen is tides, water turbulency. We saw General Katumba Amala issue an advisory. Don't move on water for this time, especially at night. Most of these fishermen, even the marine boat, as it was about to approach Kasenyi, the tides and all that changed, and that's why we saw that accident. So, have we given them right information? Do they have the information from the weather forecasters, meteorology department? Does it flow to them to be aware that during this time, because one thing you find common on people who use water transport, I don't know why, there's still so much rigged into funny beliefs. Nyanje mazo sadaka. If now like we've had this death. Enyanja yesadakide, like they mean the lake has somehow sacrificed us. So now, because those have died, for us in this month we're okay to go.
No, that also goes to show you, like you said, people are, first of all, who are the people that are applying these, the lakes? Yes, you will find the rich people that own islands using the lake, their nice fancy boats to go to their islands. But the people that are usually culprits of accidents, or sorry, victims of accidents on water are not usually the rich, quote unquote. They are usually normal Ugandans that are moving from Kalangala to another landing site. Okay? And most of these people, in most cases, are not really well educated. So when they say things like Nyanja Yesa Daki, their knowledge is limited. It stops somewhere. That's why your point of sensitization, educating people regarding water transport is very important. And also this week, the Uganda Meteorological Authority issued a weather advisory indicating that Uganda will have an El Nino season all year. And with this season, the Weather Service predicts that vast regions of the country will experience slightly increased rains and below average rains from August to December. And if you're wondering what El Nino means, El Nino is the large-scale ocean atmosphere climate interaction linked to a periodic warming of sea surface temperatures across the central and eastern and east central equatorial Pacific Ocean. Now, to put this in layman's language and to relate it to what we are discussing this morning, it is that because the rains are going to be slightly higher, it's going to be increasingly difficult to be on lakes. That's why General Katumba Wamala was saying, avoid lakes, especially in the night, because the weather is bad, the tides are stronger, so you risk losing your life if you go on the lakes at night. But now, coming back, Chantal, the good general means well, and of course the Meteorological Authority also warned us, but fish is caught in the night.
Yes.
How do we expect fishermen that ply these lakes, whether it is Lake Choga or Lake Victoria, to go about this? What safety tips do we have to give them?
Well, when you look at the Good Journal's advice, I believe it was well intended,
yes,
for the sake of the Ugandans. However, when you do a problem statement, I usually say, please attach a proposed solution. In this case, if you are telling Ugandans that it is impossible to actually go on the lakes, especially people who are into the fishing industry? Are you telling this individual that, listen, for the remaining part of the year, please avoid the lake in the night because of this very reason? Or you are just warning and advising, but please have solutions put in place, or at least ways, because you understand this better than the layman who is at that landing site, the layman who lives around that lake. But also, have we thought about generally instilling the swimming skill in these people? Yes, there are those who have grown up around the lake. They know how to they've over time known how to maneuver and learned how to swim. But generally, do these people know how to swim? Do they, if for example, there was a time they were rolling out the patriotism clubs in schools, and they were saying at least have a little bit of a skill in this area. So how about we take that side and think about these solutions? How about it's put in place that if you cannot swim, don't go in the lake, don't go to swim. Don't go to fish. Don't use the lake if you cannot swim. Especially if you are someone that is in the transport industry, that is water transport. If you are someone that does fishing, don't enter the lake if you know you cannot swim. Also, have we put measures in place to check these jackets that you will put on? The truth is, whether we agree or not, if you have been to these landing sites when these boys are fishing, you will agree with me that they will not be wearing life jackets. Do we agree?
Yes.
So what measures have been put in place? Now, someone will say that is a personal initiative, but clearly this person does not see it as a personal initiative. So what has been done to enforce this? We are groomed differently, grown up in different areas, so my zeal to do something is different from Robert's zeal to do something. My mentality, my attitude towards putting on a life jacket could be different. We've seen people in the car, they will tell you seatbelt and tawanya, but it's for your safety. So there's someone who thinks like that. Even the life jacket, busy tower, what, I'll manage.
I need to take a snap picture and my outfit, because when you look at the MV Templar, most of the people that were aboard the boat were not wearing life jackets. They were under the influence of alcohol, and most of them, it was just showing off and, post
the beautiful outfits.
Take it, picture it, and post it. And that's how we lost over 33 people.
Thank you. So do we have these measures put in place? We are grateful that the warning has come through. That is a call for us to be careful, but it's not a call for us to actually put action in place.
So yesterday, Chirabo had a conversation with the head of the marine unit on Lake Victoria, of the police unit, and I will bounce this back to you. What measures did he say that the authorities have put in place to ensure safety of people that ply the lakes?
Well, first he expressed a challenge. We have about 300 landing sites, and they have detaches at only 30 of these landing sites. Of course, he talked about having patrols and interconnecting them, but truth be told, we know how the lake is vast. We know how it is hard for these systems. And also, we must accept that even on land, police cannot be everywhere. You've seen you can drive for a certain period of time. You've seen taxis, public transport, where they'll overload, then they will know where to remove these passengers, then meet us when you've passed this post. So water may not be any different. It's even harder for them. And logistics and resources, equipment, these speed boats may not be sufficient enough. So it all goes back to right sensitization and a public concern. This caution is coming to people who are going to use the waters. And the good thing is even these fishermen previous, they had their African understanding, such and such a month, the lake is dangerous. And they will tell you, mwezi ogw'omunaana ogw'omwenda ennyanja mbi, ennyanja etta, ennyanja shi. But they also have some extremism when it goes to maybe if they lose people in huge numbers, now ennyanja yamaze okwessaddaaka and becomes, then they again think it is okay now for them to use water. Important is, if we give this all the right information, coupled with enforcement, sometimes I fail to resonate with certain issues. For example, on our waters, it is very hard, maybe because it's done by the UPDF, for illegal fishing to take place. Those guys are almost everywhere. Almost everywhere. The fisheries unit of UPDF, even if you have four kamu bubiri busatu buna in a boat, they will be able to nab you. Now, why don't we see this extended to clearing size of boat that you're using, weight that you're carrying, quality of life jackets? And this is something I want to emphasize to many Ugandans. It is very wrong for you to think you're safe, yet you're not. Now, if you're to use a life jacket experts tell us that they don't have uniform weight. And if you're to purchase it in a good shop, not black market, not someone who comes with them, they have to know your weight. And recently, I was told even height.
Yes,
one that fits Chantel
height matters because
does not fit
body
me.
Mass index, yes.
Where do I fall in this equation?
Olive height meant, so, but in terms, leave alone your high heel shoes, you are picking me just like me. But what happens is, you must have, many times I've seen people, I usually love hanging out on water, but these commercial boats, where you go maybe to a beach and they can give you a ride. Go to Botanical, go to Gava, where are those boats? They're just giving people jackets. You come, they give you this, they give you that, they give me this uniform.
Otaddeko jacket.
Kano tekantuuka tufuna kanene. Yes.
And even some don't have zips. Some are not tight.
Speaking of zips, is it mandatory for someone to zip their life jacket? I'm asking because I have seen many people on boats, and I've been on boats myself where I was wearing a jacket and I hadn't zipped.
Let me tell you what happens at that moment. When you panic and you fall in the water, that jacket that is not tied actually goes off.
Yes.
The first thing that happens when you fall in the water is you're likely to fight with the water.
Oh, yes.
So that means it goes off because your hands are stretched out everywhere and the next thing, the jacket is off. So your jacket has to be on your body for you to be able to float. That is why, basics, your floaters or your kid's floater is on the body. It's not loose. It has to be on the body. Even that one, the one which is like a hula hoop, the kid has to hold on to it. It has to have body contact to remove any chances of that floater going off. Same applies to the jacket. It has to be tight on your body so that it does not easily go off. That is how you get to float on the water, then get to maneuver through to whichever direction you can take. Or maybe someone finds you floating on the water. Short of that, if you don't zip it, if you don't tie it, it's going to go off.
Now, speaking of safety measures that have been put in place, the Minister of State for Transport, Fred Byamukama, directed that passenger boats should not be on the lakes at night. And he comes from the background saying that if there is little legroom for response in the night, it is dark, it is water, so it is very unsafe for you to be on the lake at night. Obviously, this works well for passengers. You can say, I will travel in the morning, but it does not address the fishermen problem because they do fishing mostly at night. That's because, I mean, even if we are to go back to the Bible, the story of Jesus on the lake, they went to fish.
The art of fishing
at night.
That
turbulence where Jesus walked on water was in the night.
Was in the night, definitely.
So how do we solve that?
One, we know that the fishermen, and Ugandans are risk takers. Where there is war and other countries are fearing, we shall go. We shall grab that money. Are risk takers. So fishermen will hit the lakes at night to get fish. However, what we can do is manage the risks of death. If fishermen go and they have the right gears, the right boats, and they are caught up by tides, which they don't have control over, because if the lake goes wide now, how do we save them? Do they have the life jackets and the right life jackets? Actually, one of the issues I learned on a right life jacket even has a whistle.
A whistle?
Yes.
Should be having, yes.
It should be having a whistle. So that when you fall in water, because once a boat capsizes, you people in the water cannot make that boat, if it has capsized, either gone into water or it changes, then it
presses down.
So you don't have the capacity to turn it.
Yes.
So you now have to depend on someone to rescue you. And however good you're a swimmer, there is a distance at which your body cannot swim to the shores or to the next island. Remember, this is water. Over a time, it gets your body. That's why most of the bodies you get from water are kind of stiffened. You know, it's like, imagine if you're put in a fridge for a long time. So even if you're to swim and you're a good swimmer with this floater, you reach a point and you will wear out. So why life jackets are a priority? That they help you call for aid. You float for that time, then either most of them are passerby boat, they will be able to spot you. In developed countries, most of these boats have some kind of light. Very sharp light. Some move with flares, you know. In case of a situation, they can fire up. Then it goes like fireworks to indicate to others on water that there is a problem. Once they shoot this flare up, either the captain or it's mandatory that you must have it as long as you're going on water. And you must have those sharp lights that someone coming to rescue you
will know where.
But on Lake Victoria, dark as it is very hard to spot you. So we must look at, in case of, because you may not prevent them, but how do we limit damage
now,
when these things happen?
Speaking about limiting damage, the leadership of Kalangala district is planning to revive a bylaw passed 7 years ago to regulate water transport. And in this law, they say that the ordinance requires passenger boats operators to fit their craft with life-saving jackets to ensure safety of travelers. Each boat operating in the area was also supposed to have a waste management disposal plan. Other widely held safety tips for water transportation included in the bylaw but are not limited to operators to ensure that the boat is in good condition. That is key. And earlier I was asking my colleagues, when we talk about these boats, where are they made? Are there regulations for these boats? Who makes the boats? Because you see, if I need a car, I'm going to go to the bond and buy a car. And I assume that this car, by the time it was imported from whether Japan or Europe, and it came into the country's borders, it was checked and given a comprehensive check to know that it is fit to be driven on Uganda's roads, yes. And also you remember that the country decided that cars of a given like let's say if your car was made in the 80s, it's not supposed to be on Uganda's roads. But when it comes to boats, do we have regulations regarding the vessels that are supposed to be on lakes?
Allow me to say something. When Cherebo was talking about what happens in the West, please do note that in the West, these people are deliberate. You see how you regulate road transport and regulate air transport? You know why we don't have planes colliding?
Yes.
If it happens, it was really a very it was an isolated incident. Now that means the routes are planned. You understand?
Yes.
That means there is deliberate measures put in place to know what time are you flying, at what altitude are you flying, and all those things.
The weather.
Thank you.
And in case there is turbulence, what do you do?
You will be warned.
Yes.
You will know. So let's come back to the water transport in Uganda. What regulations are there? Yeah, and what system has been put in place? Do we know how many boats use Lake Victoria in a day? Do we know how many people, do we even have a capacity that has been put in place of this particular boat can only carry this number of people, and who checks before this boat actually goes onto the water? Have you ever seen an airplane that is what is that word? Overloaded?
No.
Have you ever seen one?
No.
Thank you. So much as we are being deliberate with the air transport, road transport, why don't we be deliberate with water transport? The beautiful thing with water is when it has set off, it has set off. No one is going to swim and join in the middle. Like it happens with buses, they know
taxis.
there is this stop here. So
you reach
by the time we reach Masaka, these guys will be getting out. When we are crossing over from the next to the next checkpoint, we'll have few people. They plan their routes like that. So on water, it's even a lot easier. But if as a country, we don't even know how many boats are going to be there, how many boats use personal ones, commercial ones, yes. What times do they move? And also, yes, it's understandable that at night we cannot have fully maybe a team that is going to be available. But how come at some point we had traffic officers doing Kawunyemu on the road 2 in the night? What am I trying to say? When we know the schedule of who is going to be on the water at this time, we will know if we should deploy and how many should be deployed and where. Do we have such a system? I don't see that in our country.
Now, speaking of that, I have a few comments from our contributors on social media. But if you have just joined us, we are delving into the issue that is safety on Uganda's waters. How do we avert accidents on our lakes like Lake Victoria, Lake Choga, and many other water bodies? How do we ensure that those who use the lakes, those who are there for work, those who are there for transport are safe? You can share your opinions. The number is on your screen, and if it is Twitter, you can join us. Hashtag is UBCGMU. Now, regarding what you were saying about us regulating water transport, having police officers in the night for Kawunyemu, for those who are driving under the influence of alcohol, there is a comment from Miro Ashraf, and he says he's live at Antique Cottages, Lake Bunyonyi. He says here at Lake Bunyonyi, which is the deepest lake in Uganda and Africa, by the way, he says that the only way safety was increased this side was putting up a daily police patrol on the lake. He goes on to say that if police patrol is monitoring regularly on the waters, it can always control those accidents. He goes on again to say that he lives at Island Boutique Hotel. But also another comment, good morning. Thank you for your service. I'm Kigenyi Aaron from Ginger City. This person is contributing about the World Bank. But then there is David Kayondo. He says, good morning, thanks for the show. About water accidents, we need tower centers with light that can go up to at least 1 kilometer with tight watchmen and flyer guns for each boat. I think this is what you were meaning earlier.
Because when you have these flyer guns, once you're in trouble, because it's not only that a boat can capsize, it can come out, it can run out of fuel. It can have issues with the engine, and you're stuck for a long time. If no one comes to rescue you, then you'll end up. So flyer guns are a good sign that we are in trouble. So of course it flares when it's short. It's more like fireworks. So other people on the lake are able to detect and see. If you have good lighting, they come to your rescue. But finally, Chantal talked about being intentional. We have laws, but the biggest challenge is implementation. Are you aware that these boats have number plates, are supposed
to have number plates.
Yeah, supposed
to have number plates. And
Trace
government moved into this as we are now moving to digital number plates for some time. But also water transport is tricky. Sometimes not so much, but get on water transport. A person, you know these canoe boats, there is so much, you cannot manufacture a car, neither I. But for boats, it is very easy. People make their own vessels. 2, 3, they make their canoe, put it on water. You find a fisherman on a lake, on something just like this table. He's fishing. Some kafane think that, but this man is sailing and throwing nets everywhere because they can come up with their own kind of transport on this. So we need to have more resource, and I want to emphasize this. We need to empower the police marine unit.
Just the way we have empowered the traffic police on roads. Well, this is an important conversation for all of us. And if you have, now that we are moving close to the weekend, if you have plans of being on the lake, like the good General Katumba Wamala said, it is risky. The water levels may go high and the tides may be stronger. So if you must, make sure that you have the right life jacket, and of course try to find out, you know how we do, you see a taxi, it looks like a DMZ and you're like, I'm not going into that. Maybe even on boats, you can look at the boat and say, can I really be safe with in a boat like this? Because this is what happened with the MV Templar. Some of the survivors said, we looked at the boat, it didn't look really okay, but they decided to get onto the boat, and we know how that story ended. Thank you so much for your contributions. This has been Good Morning Uganda Agenda, and yes, you are doing a great thing to be on UBC TV. My name is Olive Monica Najuma, and I have been with the team, Robert and Chantal. Thank you for watching.
As Gulu District Farmers Association, in 2 districts of Omoro and Gulu, 14,300 farmers benefited from this project, whereby if you go to that link of Gulu District Farmers Association, you have all the details of the number of farmers who have been benefiting from this project. One thing Gulu District Farmers Association benefited from this project called PRELNO, it has strengthened the extension system of the DFA, or the Gulu District Farmers Association, whereby there were capacity building of each of the staff. The one in Gulu, the one in Omoro. Before this farmer group, I also benefited from this project, whereby, particularly for me, the other achievement I made, because in fact, I think all in all, I'm being, I could say, the luckiest. To me, particularly, imagine, because I finished my university in 2020. Immediately, I came for PRELNO. So I understood every structure, what's all about in PRELNO, whereby I had to achieve.